And welcome back, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Mike Pache. Always great to be with you. We want to move now to international news, focusing on the war in Ukraine. Big news that will be coming tomorrow. President Trump will host Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy at the White House to discuss the ongoing war with Russia. We want to show you a breakdown and updates along the way here on this war. Fox News' Mike Emanuel with the latest.
The aerial attacks continue from both Russia and Ukraine as the conflict between the two nations drags on. President Trump campaigned on ending the war in Ukraine, but so far that peace has eluded him.
They're going into the fourth year, and I want to see it stop.
Through phone calls and face-to-face meetings, President Trump has been working to bring both sides to the negotiating table. Earlier today, the president said he made great progress during a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin and added discussions will take place next week between high-level Russian and U.S. officials.
I think we're going to have this one done hopefully soon, but I'll be meeting him probably over the next 2 weeks.
On Friday, Mr. Trump will talk with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy at the White House. But while Ukraine does want peace, Zelenskyy is also interested in U.S. Tomahawk missiles, which can strike deep into Russian territory.
To make real pressure on Putin. We need real air defense. And the second point, to have long distance capabilities.
But Moscow is warning there may be consequences if President Trump makes a Tomahawk deal with Ukraine.
They're very powerful. They're very accurate. They're very good, but we need them too. So I don't know what we can do about that.
President Trump says if next week's meeting between U.S. and Russian officials goes well, he and Putin will meet in Budapest, Hungary. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
All right, Mike, thanks so much for those updates. We want to continue to talk on this topic. Big updates will be coming tomorrow. We want to preview Zelenskyy at the White House and then also talk about some of the negotiations along the way as well. So let's bring in our next guest to help break all of that down. Let's welcome in Davis Richardson, the CEO of American Ukrainian Strategic Partners. Thanks so much for being here with us, Davis. And yeah, all eyes are definitely going to be on this meeting tomorrow. What can we really expect for President Trump and Zelenskyy to be talking about? Is it really going to be so much focused on these Tomahawk missiles?
Well, the Tomahawk missiles are going to be a very important part of this, but in some ways, the Tomahawk missiles themselves are symbolic of a broader partnership that needs to happen between the United States industrial base and Ukraine's defense base, which has really emerged since the full-scale invasion of 2022. Ukraine really did not have large-scale defense capabilities, but through this absolutely, horrific invasion that, Russia launched, Ukraine has really brought up a lot of capabilities of defending itself, and there's a lot of innovation that's happening on the front lines, which the United States is in a good position to also get some lessons learned from the battlefield.
Yeah, so true. And obviously, Putin will not like to be hearing about the talk there of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. How much will they be looking at this meeting and seeing what comes from it?
Well, Russia is certainly going to be watching, but the reality is when it comes to these threats, President Trump's right. Russia is a bit of a paper tiger. I mean, I think you saw this 10 years ago. Russia flew a plane over Turkish airspace. Turkey immediately blew up the plane, and that was the end of that, right? There seems to be an issue with a lot of these European countries hemming and hawing a bit when Russia continues to violate international law and not having the capabilities to defend itself. For instance, when Russia sent all of these drones into Polish airspace. Ukraine has built the solutions and the technological capabilities and for countering these threats, and really not just the United States, but all of Europe should be looking at what's coming out of here as well.
And I also want to talk, Davis, about what President Trump said about the upcoming meeting with Putin, maybe in a couple of weeks in Budapest. That was the Fox News alert that came out earlier today. What does President Trump have to do to kind of have a different meeting than the one that took place in Alaska?
Well, I think President Trump's approach of peace through strength is really the right approach. And I think, it takes two to tango. So a lot of Ukrainians don't necessarily like that President Trump is even having these meetings with Putin, but you really need two parties to end conflict. What I would add there is President Trump has a lot of cards to play here. There's the billions of dollars in frozen Russian assets all over Europe that can be unlocked to fund Ukrainian defense. There's the Tomahawk missiles. There's a lot of cards that the United States has to play, and President Trump knows that, and he's willing to deploy them if necessary.
There we go. Yeah, we'll definitely be looking at what comes, especially tomorrow with the first meeting with Zelenskyy back at the White House. Davis Richardson, thanks so much for joining us on Live Now from Fox. We really appreciate the preview for tomorrow's big meeting. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, everyone, we will take another 2-minute break here on Live Now from Fox. Stay right here with us. More to come. All right, everyone, welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. Staying with the international news as Zelenskyy making his return back to the White House tomorrow. All eyes will be on that meeting for the future of the war in Ukraine as it continues to rage on with Russia. I want to continue to talk about this. Let's bring in our next guest to help break it all down, give us a preview of that meeting, and to talk about the war in general as well. Please welcome everyone, retired Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery. Great to have you on, sir. And we are going to be really focusing in on this meeting tomorrow. What do you expect really to be these main talking points that come out of the meeting tomorrow with Trump and Zelenskyy?
Well, I particularly hope that the president and Zelenskyy talk about what systems the United States is going to additionally provide, either through sale or presidential drawdown authority to Ukraine. This would have two advantages. One, it improve Ukraine's ability to defend itself, particularly Patriot and AMRAAM missiles for their air defense. But also, it'll be a strong message to Vladimir Putin, who the president says he's going to meet in 2 weeks, that, look, I'm serious about this. I think he needs to take actions prior to meetings with Putin to demonstrate the cost he can impose on Putin. So the first thing would be these defensive systems, and the second would be offensive systems like Tomahawk and other systems that we could possibly provide.
Yeah, we were hearing a lot about the Tomahawk missiles today. President Trump getting asked about that inside the Oval Office today. How much of a big asset would Tomahawk missiles be for Ukraine in this war?
So, look, I'm a fan of I fight a lot of Tomahawks. I'm a fan of them, but I'll tell you, there's a lot that goes into a Tomahawk in terms of targeting, mission planning, intelligence support, survivability of the missile, things that I'm not 100% sure how we would provide them and whether we would provide them to Ukraine in this condition. So I kind of think Tomahawk's a political issue. Politically saying, I'm going to provide these long-range strike missiles to Ukraine, and they won't get there for many months or even a year, then Trump gets credit for it. He puts pressure on Putin. The reality is there's another weapon called the ERAM, the extended range attack munition, that if we increased our ability to provide it and quickly got to hundreds per month flowing to them, these are shorter than Tomahawks, but longer than anything the Ukrainians have right now. They can really impose cost on the Russian military. Again, a strong signal, deterrent signal to Putin that says, look, I'm meeting with you in 2 weeks, but I mean business now.
Yeah, that is so key, because do you feel that if those strong words and those actions aren't done before then, that it might be a situation in a couple of weeks where they meet and it looks a lot like Alaska again?
Yeah, strong actions. I mean, I think we're past words. The president, we're about 5 months into 2 weeks to go. The president's given a lot of 2 weeks to go, and we got 2 weeks again here. Really, actions would do it. To me, actions would provide the opportunity for the president to deter Putin. Words alone, I think at this point, Putin's got that baked into the pie.
No, that is such a key info there, and something that, yeah, I think a lot of people want to see more of the action right now. Zelenskyy coming here. Is his meeting going to be any different maybe in the last couple of that we have seen from him? Because it always seems like when Zelenskyy comes, you know, he wants more support, more aid, but those action types just aren't there, it seems.
Well, I'm hoping it is. Look, he's coming with a lot more on the table. Offers to buy U.S. oil and natural gas, offers to allow co-investment in joint ventures with Ukraine. You know, a real diplomatic, economic, and security package. And this is the kind of stuff President Trump likes. He's a deal maker. Here comes a guy offering, with a reasonable sized economy, offering a deal, particularly that have a lot of reconstruction money flowing in. So I think Zelensky's got good trade barter for the president. And look, in the end, the president wants to be a peacemaker. You're not getting Putin to peace without some stick being applied, and that stick would be weapons, offensive weapons transfers.
And lastly, Mark, I think a lot of people want to know this here. As it stands right now, just say nothing changes, the war continues to rage on. How much longer can Russia continue this effort?
Yeah. So I just got back from a couple weeks there with the Ukrainians, and first I'm going to tell you, they're not going to lose. I don't know how they would recapture ground. I don't think that's really in the cards right now, but they've got tough societal resilience. They've got a plan for how they do it. They do have manpower challenges, but I believe they can rationally get through that. Russia, on the other hand, is an unknown. They're 40% of their federal budget goes to defense, and 40% of the money they make coming in the country comes from oil and natural gas. So if the president legitimately can get India to stop buying Russian oil, can get Turkey to stop buying Russian oil and natural gas, if those two things were to happen, I think Putin's ability to execute this war ends next year. And so I don't like to make predictions, but in my mind, I think about how does Ukraine get through next September? Because I think next September, Putin's out of gas. Russia is out of gas, metaphorically speaking.
There we go. All right, Mark, great to have you on here on Live Now from Fox. We really appreciate your analysis here and preview of tomorrow's big meeting. We thank you.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. All right, everyone. You are watching Live Now from Fox. We want to continue to bring you some of the other stories that we are following for you. Live look right now in D.C. as well. And just take a look here at what Zelenskyy did say earlier today. Put this out on X, saying, already in Washington, tomorrow a meeting with President Trump is scheduled, and we expect that the momentum of curbing terror and war that succeeded in the Middle East will help to end Russia's war against Ukraine. Putin is certainly no braver than Hamas or any other terrorist. The language of strength and justice will inevitably work against Russia as well. We can already see that Moscow is rushing to resume dialogue as soon as it hears about tomahawks. So we will feature that for you again right here on Live Now from Fox with all of the video that will be coming out of the White House tomorrow. Well, you'll see it right here on Live Now from Fox, everyone.